Hi everyone, this is Norman Kochnek yet again on Eyes on Cricket with Norman Kochnek. We're actually here, well, I'm in Sydney, Australia, Coogee Beach, Sydney, Australia. I'm sitting here in a kitchenette area, just relaxing with some of my paraphernalia behind me, and we're here today to talk about the preview of day 2 of the test at the Oval in south of London. The Oval, of course, is where the second day of the 4th test is taking place today, with England, you wouldn't say precariously positioned, but 3 for 53 without having already lost Joe Root and Burns and Hamid. They're now having to wipe off the 138 runs that India have in front, which after India have actually themselves scored 191. It was 7 for 127 when Shardul Thakur, who's been called Beefy, now Botham, which is rather interesting, came into bat and proceeded to hit one of the fastest 50s scored in some time, with some 7 4s and 3 6s. Some magnificent batting, really impressive, very much like Pant actually, but came in and really took them apart and brought the score to 190. In fact, they're all out for 191. So that 63-run partnership in which Thakur hit 57 of them was very significant. Obviously, we also had the likes of Virat Kohli scoring a 50, yet another 50. And look, we've got to remember that brought up his 23,000th run in all forms of cricket. He's actually beaten Tendulkar to that post by some, I think it's 32 innings, I'm not sure, but he's beaten quite convincingly to that total. So we've got to remember, put that into perspective about Kohli. There's a lot of knockers out there. There's people out there ready to have his head, but I don't know whether we really need to be so hard on Kohli. There's some dissension as to his captaincy, dissension as to his approaches with Shastri, that he may have Shastri as a yes man, which I find hard to believe. And probably the most significant thing is there's an Gautam Bhattacharya, who's a very good friend of mine. He's actually he's been on the show, very learned man, very, very studious to the game of cricket, like Buri Majumdar. They both, it's just there actually, by the way. But Gautam was very clear, and what everybody's talking about is that there appears to be a rift or something not kosher between Ashwin and Kohli. And look, there's no doubt that Ashwin would be very disgruntled about missing only his 4th test match in a row when everybody was assuming he was in the side and he didn't make it. And there's a real talking point. Jim Maxwell has spoken about the greatness or the drama of a non-selection of Ashwin. And then you see the argument of the way that Kohli expressed in the interview as to why he was not selected. The fact that hello, Sumant Shastri, how are you? So we have a situation where they discussed at length about, that is Kohli, talked about why that Ashwin wasn't selected, that Jadeja simply was a better batter. He'll bat higher, in order which they did bump him up above Pant and Rahane, which was interesting. That he was worth more because of his left-arm bowling to left-hand batters, that he would take more wickets against them with his spin. The reality is that Ashwin is not in the template for this particular match, and Jadeja is. And Bumrah and the like were there, of course, but also Shardul Thakur would come in front of him when Ishant Sharma and Shami both were not selected due to apparent injuries. And that brought in both Umesh Yadav, who has proven quite successful with his delivery. They got Root out. And also the bowling of Shardul Thakur was particularly, but his batting was particularly great. His 57 that he got was magnificent. So ultimately, Ashwin was Kohli tried to talk us all out of why we should have Ashwin on the side. It was rather unnecessarily detailed, I would have thought. So Sumant Shastri saying, Norman, what are your predictions? My predictions, well, with England 353, and they've still got Milan's still there and looking very good. You've got Overton who can bat in there as well. But you also have Bairstow, Moeen Ali, and of course Chris Wokes to come, with even Robertson pitching in there towards the end. Only really James Anderson's the bunny amongst them. Really, we're looking at a situation where England could still get the 138 runs needed to reach India's first inning score. India are clearly 50 to 100 runs shy of what they should have been in their first innings. So England could conceivably get a score around 230, putting them in front by some 39 runs. And you would hope then that the likes of Rahul and Robert Sharma could come in and not lose their wickets so conclusively and actually get a lead, none down. So the game would be very, very evenly poised. So a lead of 43 runs won't be, so it's okay. Yeah, that's correct. I would agree. If they get 230, 240, even 250, I think that's not insurmountable for India. Umesh Yadav was a fantastic swing bowler. Well, he was. That was more of a. It wasn't swing that led to that dismissal. It was more of an in-dipping delivery, actually. Very much an in-dipping delivery rather than a so-called ball that's, it was a part of that whole situation. That was rather, it was unusual ball. It certainly beat Root all ends up, didn't it? So we get Milan, we have a chance. We're going to think of more than Milan. We've got Bairstow there as well. He can bat. And Chris Wokes has got that spark about him, not unlike Shardul Thakur. Yeah, Umesh Yadav was a good delivery. England's batting is long. It is relatively long before drawings, you're right. Just going to get milk. Yeah, it is relatively long. But look, India, with the way the Shami batted last time, now they've got Shardul Thakur in there. And Bumrah can even have a go. India's batting light may not look fashionably long, but they are pretty useful. So they put the milk back, guys. Yeah, the reality is that India done okay yesterday. They could have scored 50 more runs. They could have taken 1 or 2 more wickets. But the fact that Root's out is pretty significant. I think that's a pretty significant situation. What a bowl from Umesh Yadav. It certainly has proven to be, and it's completely dumbfounded Root, that's for sure. Kushner got 2 or 3 wickets in the first session. As Boris Deshpande, I would agree with you. And they got to really get into it because 138 runs is not a lot to play with, mind you. This will be a low-scoring match, I think. Root's wicket will be very important, no doubt. But Milan is still there. So the commentary, Jasprit Bumrah and Umesh Yadav's strikes lift India after batting fold. So that's the point of it. Bumrah and Yadav's strikes, bringing them 3 wickets, have lifted India from a rather negative position of being 191 all out, of the batting somewhat folded. The third test, India all out for 78 and England were none for 120. A hugely destructive day, which really set the tone for the rest of the match. India did try to get out of that hole, but didn't quite make it and were beaten by an innings. In this particular case, they're, again, pretty ordinary batting, or 191, but they've taken 3 wickets, and you would argue that's pretty much 60-40, 55-45 in favour of England. Root struggles in swingers. Well, Root's not struggling for too much at the moment. Root is effectively the number 1 batter in the world at the moment, with Wilkinson and quite a few other, the list was out earlier today. But yeah, Root would not be in a class of Kohli in terms of the overall performance. Pumanjay Sajadeva, how are you? According to Cricket Viz, wicket probably. Okay, that's a fair point. Root didn't expect the bowl to come in. He was quite dumbfounded by that whole situation, actually. Certainly was. I'm going to eat some biscuit skulls, so I'm pretty hungry. Chris Wokes was very significant. He was interviewed after. Chris Wokes did lead the England charge with the ball. India under par despite rapid 50 from Shardul Thakur. So 353, albeit really it's not yet conclusive what the score will be, but yeah, tasty biscuits, they certainly are. They're called butter biscuits. Hi, Bud. Question: what about the pitch? Will it remain the same as second and third day, or the kind of pitch switches? Look, batting last will be a difficult situation on this pitch. There's no doubt it's going to crumble, and there's no Ashwin there, so India haven't got anything to bring into play. Any good player in Australian domestic team you look forward to. Also wanted to know your point that who's going to win Ashes. Okay, Don 007. Really, domestically, Australia's not playing any form of cricket at the moment. They haven't played for some time. I mean, Curtis Patterson, Usman Khawaja, and Jason Sangha are my picks, to be honest. They're my picks for sure. Along with Pekoski for sure. The Ashes this year, we've got to remember, because Australia haven't played a damn test match since the Gabba test when they were beaten by India. No tests whatsoever. Some of the players have gone off and played IPL, some went off to Bangladesh and West Indies, some played against New Zealand. A litany of losses. Lost a lot of matches against New Zealand, lost 2 series, West Indies and Bangladesh. The IPL comes up yet again, and then we go into the World Cup. Really, they're underdone when it comes to Test cricket, and the whole contention about how they'll play in the Ashes is really a bit hard to say. Look, the reality is that England have been involved in a Test series against, I think, Sri Lanka. They've been in a Test series versus India. They've now played yet again more Test matches, played one days and T20s against Pakistan, moving into a Test series like they are now. They've played matches against New Zealand. They didn't play the World Test Championship, but they played a lot of matches, Test matches. 2 against New Zealand, 5 against India, several against Sri Lanka and India early in the year. They've had a plethora or an enormous number of Test matches under their belt. And even though there's been a lot of injuries, especially the mental state of Ben Stokes, and they're arguably Broad, they're in a pretty good shape. Archer's another one. I've almost forgotten about Jofra Archer altogether. But with Wokes back into fray, Robinson's career, Anderson still floating around, Broad coming probably back, Wood being back in the squad. The icing on the cake would be Ben Stokes, and then England would be in for a good series against Australia here in Australia. And with, again, the COVID conditions, the Australian team is very disjointed, and there is dissension certainly with Justin Langer as coach, and the camp, which has Warner and Smith and the like. There is a distinction as to who should captain. Tim Payne's with Justin Langer. Steve Smith is not, because he's self-professed he'll be next captain, and Langer poo-pooed it. That can't be a good relationship. You don't come out publicly and say that. So I've got a comment here from Jim Farr-Bannock. He's actually saying this guy is awesome. I think he's referring to me. I can't figure out a way to comment. He's old school and new school at the same time. Well, there you go. It will be sunny day and day. It'll be reasonable. What is the name of the biscuits? The biscuits are called Butter Biscuits from Europe, from a company called Coles, that's local brand. Any prediction of how we'll say? But again, I'm predicting that England should, and I say should reservedly, get past India's score, but only just. Not significant to be, any chance. Is there an overcast conditions? I don't know whether there really are. It'll be certainly dry, not rain. The sun's out, the overcast like this. So, well, we haven't got good old Munchie here to confirm, but it'll be a relatively long. The Test match will be complete. There'll be no rain delays that'll hamper the victory. We're going to see a result here, probably in 4 days, if not earlier. Kunal, and thank you for that. Well, then spread the word, guys. The beauty of a channel like this is obviously the way that the algorithm of YouTube works. They do connect, but you need to be able to your natural discussion between friends about this program and sending it in your WhatsApp and sending it in your Facebook Messenger or reposting the actual YouTube video on your various social media sites will help. So it is up to you guys to help me. Why Australia playing very less Test matches? Well, they didn't play against South Africa because of COVID. They've been too busy getting involved with warm-up matches for the World Cup and IPL. That's taken all their time. And also the 100. I mustn't forget the 100 as well. Shane Warne tried to lure most of the players there. James Patterson's underrated, in my opinion. He played quite well in the IPL. Yeah, James Patterson is being underutilised, yes. I would agree with that. No doubt that he could be better utilised. And there's a reliance probably too heavily on Stark, Cummins and Hazelwood with Lyon, not really giving many players a go outside of that unit. In fact, Michael Nesser, who's supposed to be the man in waiting, has not got a Guernsey. Doesn't mean that, it doesn't mean anything necessarily bad is happening, but Australia need to blood some players in the bowling department because they have injuries to Stark, Hazel and Cummins. They can be left very thin on. There's no doubt about that at all. Norman was the saviour in the Indo-Australia. I was not. Soon you will reach one of some kind. You are. Thank you. I hope that. So ask him what he thinks when Australia brothers bowl to New Zealand. I'm not sure what that comment's about. We'll have to get more information on that one. How are you, David?
Norman, very fluctuating day.
Well, certainly was the first day. Everyone, this is David Graveney, of course, who was a former and still very much a current selector or spy or confidant on players for the England makeup with his under-19 team heading into a weekend. Also, a lot to do with the ECB over a number of decades. So, David, it was a fluctuating day. What did you think of Shardul Thakur yesterday?
He was an angry man, wasn't he? I think he wasn't very happy with his teammates, really. But, I think what it does show, Norman, is the fact that the Oval is a really quick scoring ground if somebody gets in, because the square is so big that actually the ball flying across the square, you can't ever catch it up. So, and in certain parts of the ground, the boundaries brought in, but maybe Rishabh Pant might have a look at that innings. And how they deal with Pant is going to be quite interesting. I know that it would have obviously got a lot of adverse comments or whatever, but he's a young lad. What do you want to do? You want to suppress his danger is that he can change games. So you somehow got to. It's a bit like the conversation about Warren Gatland said about Plan A and Plan B. There isn't a Plan B. You just do Plan A better. So he's just got to be a bit more selective, and how that's pitched to him will be actually a really interesting man management, really, because you don't want him to just go out there. If he goes out there and tries to block, he will get out. Nothing
No doubt.
certain on that.
I actually think he's not. I don't think his mind is as clear as it normally would be. He does seem to play a shot with go abandoned, and then all of a sudden he seems to be play a bad shot, and then sort of drags it back.
I think he's probably not quite as used to the ball moving around to the degree that it is in England. He might see a ball halfway down the pitch. Chris,
morning.
I wasn't going to reply to your text.
Now, you haven't got a hat on. I might have taken I can't take my hat. My hair's an absolute mess.
But
Here we
go. Oh, he's putting the
very
MCC.
nice hat.
Everyone, this is Chris Byrne.
Yesterday, actually, Chris. It's like biocancer to Marie Celeste.
I didn't hear what you said, Grab. Sorry.
I said that I was speaking to people within the MCC because there's a match on Tuesday, which is Build Esker versus MCC Schools, which is some of the best young players who are not at Beckenham playing against the West Indies. And trying to find somebody to speak to was quite a challenge, really, because nobody was there. So
I might. Did you say it was this Tuesday or it's next Tuesday?
Tuesday coming.
Okay, I might. If it's at Beckenham, did you say I might try and pop in? It's about an hour.
Sorry, the One Day International is actually on Saturday, Monday, Wednesday.
All in Kent.
And then the next three are played at Polo Farm.
Okay, when's the first game at Polo Farm?
It'll be sort of at that weekend, I would imagine. The West Indies are leaving by the 17th, so it's all going to be compressed. But
Well, let me know when you're at Polo Farm. That's about half hour for me, so I'm happy.
Yeah.
I'll happily drive up and say hello if I'm allowed.
No. I don't think there's any. That's what I was trying to find out. Any restrictions? So basically, the Polo Farm matches are on Sunday the 12th, Wednesday the 15th, and Friday the 17th, and they fly out on the 18th. I'm definitely not there on the Wednesday, Chris.
I think Sunday is not good.
Charity day, so
I'll try and come up on the Friday, maybe. I'll definitely try and come up if I can. That'd be good to see.
So how was your day yesterday? It's quite a nice day, wasn't it?
It was a good day yesterday. It was a very random day. I literally woke up at about 7:30, and my mate messaged me at 8 o'clock and said, do you want to go out to the test today? Obviously, there were guys selling tickets online, and we had pretty good seats. I think he paid 60 quid each ticket, considering I think face value was 100. But obviously, that late notice, people just want to sell them. So, we had a very good day. Considering
which end of the ground were you?
We were opposite sort of where the players are. So it was to the left of the OCS, if that makes sense. The JM Fin.
No, we are.
Yeah. So
what do you call it? Do you call it a foundry?
It was where my daughter was, actually, if that's the right place, Chris, in 2005. She spent the whole of the last afternoon after tea, when the tension had disappeared slightly, merely dancing on her seat, basically.
So what's that big structure called? It's called a foundry, is it?
It's the OCS stand. I don't know. The OCS stand, isn't it?
You're talking about the gasworks.
Gasworks, yes.
Yeah.
The gas, yeah.
Yeah. So it's like a cylinder that keeps gas, as far as I'm led to believe. Once the gas gets used, it decreases. I don't know. I would imagine it's redundant, Norman, but it's.
It's probably more of it.
It's probably like the scoreboard at Sydney. You've got to keep it because it's part of the character of the ground. So.
Yeah, it's almost iconic there, isn't it? I actually, quite controversial, saying to my friend, I actually prefer the Oval to Lords as a ground to watch cricket. I prefer Lords as a place because, with the MCC and everything. But if you're going to sit and watch a day's cricket, I think the Oval is a better place to watch.
The Oval has the best atmosphere, Chris. Because I think not decrying what the MCC do, but there seems to be more corporate people at Lords than there are at the Oval. And certainly from a playing point of view, for me, I hated playing at Lords because they used to practice. Norman's just thrown his coffee all over his computer, so
yes,
he's had a bit of a drama, Chris, over the past few days. He's either been melting chocolates next to his computer or throwing coffee over them. So
that's because I was trying to concentrate on two things, and men can't do that.
No.
Now, Chris, just quickly, okay.
Yeah.
So, and David, you can pitch in here as well. So that's the gasworks, and it's called. What was the abbreviation? Just OCS, was it?
No. OCS is named
the sponsor of the stand at the far end.
Right.
So the two separate completely.
Right. I've been to the Oval many times. There's a Surrey Cricket Club section of it. Yeah. There's also the main brick stand, which is the most picturesque old stand. What is that? Also the members' pavilion?
Yeah. That's what it would be.
I remember being in that on a number of occasions, and I really enjoyed it. It was magnificent.
No, it obviously doesn't have, and they all get really upset at the Oval. Just doesn't have the history of the pavilion at Lords, which is understandable. No. You walk into Lords in the long room, which Chris would have walked in when he played. He probably wouldn't look at it, but the pictures are worth millions of pounds that are hanging up, and they get changed quite often to another lot of pictures that are worth millions as well. So, but the Oval was nice. You wouldn't realise actually walking round the grounds, Norman. There is the smallest pathway behind the stands that you could ever imagine, particularly down by the gasworks that side. Literally about the width of two people.
Really?
So when I was trying to escape the ground when Bell got out for naught on that last day, I was in a position where a lot of people were sharing their views at close quarters.
It's definitely the best ground in terms of the concourse, like the outlets and the
No, they've done really well. Yeah.
It's a nice stadium. They were trialing a new ticket admission system yesterday to buzz your e-ticket in. And we must have queued for about an hour. We didn't make in for the start. It was an absolute farce. You think, why on earth would you trial out this new system on day one of a test match with a packed house? Try it at a county championship game when there's two men and their dogs watching. You know, it's just ridiculous. But it was a good day.
Just quickly, Chris, you've got the rule of the roost. Apparently, you're running amok in the house because your dad and mum are now in Lanzarote or Canary Islands or something.
They're in Lanzarote, I think.
Windy city.
Yeah.
That is windy.
Because your dad's just messaged me. He wants a copy of the link. I think he might be about to show off and show us some background of a resort. I think he's actually joining us right now. Oh, here he is.
There you go.
Dark glasses.
There's that Bono.
Blue skies and pools and palm trees.
How about that? Is that? I don't know if you can hear me all right.
Reg, we can hear you.
Yeah, it's either Roy Orbison or perhaps
Bono, isn't it?
Bono. Well, he might want to be Bono.
Not so pretty. So welcome to Lanzarote, guys.
No, it's good.
Turn around and lie back down on the Sunday.
That's not the sports centre, Reg, you're at, is it?
No, I'm not allowed in sports centres anymore, David. There's a ban on people as old and fat as me.
Sports centre that we took everybody, as many as England players and staff you could ever imagine.
All right.
It became an absolute.
I've got to admit, I missed pretty much all the cricket yesterday. I managed to get 5 Live Test match special for about 2 hours, and then I got banned. The BBC suddenly came on and said I'm not allowed to listen to it.
What?
But I couldn't believe it. So, yeah, but I got the Richard Pant dismissal. I was listening to that live, and it sounded like it was again completely atrocious bit of cricket. The Agnew and
Chris registered his disappointment.
It was the thing is second ball he ran down the wicket. Third ball he left 2 or 3 and then ran down the wicket and tried to hoik one and missed it completely. I was sat there with my mate and saying, what is he doing? And then he played quite a circumspect. He took 15 balls to get off the mark and then just Wokes did him, didn't he? I just don't get it. Like, you've got to be better than that, surely. Like, I just don't get how. And as I said to Norman and Grav, and when we were in the winter, I said it's all well and good when he's scoring runs, but as soon as he stops scoring runs, people are going to start saying, well, you can't bat like that. So it'd just be nice.
What I can't understand, and I wanted David and Norman, because we spoke about this, well, me and Norman spoke about it prior to the series, is he can't keep doing it. I don't understand as a professional cricketer, when you've done it twice, 3, 4 times, how he's good enough to change his game. He's good enough to take his time, face 40 or 50 balls and get to 20 not out, whatever, and then go for it. Why does he keep doing this? I mean, it's nonsense.
I think it's, before you came on, Reg, it's a bit sort of caught between 2 stools. That he's obviously white ball player. Well, he's an attacking player. He just needs to have a better idea of what is the right ball to hit. And I said to Norman before even Chris came on, I don't think he's probably encountered wickets and an atmosphere where the ball does as much and does it late. So he might be lining up something that he thinks he can hit, and then the end product becomes. It's going to be an interesting man management, because if you go too hard on him, then he'll just won't play shots at all. So that's not.
But David, am I right in thinking, because I was listening to Thakkor's innings, that he stood there and played proper, authentic shots, but obviously very aggressively. Whereas
some towards
Pant
the
is
end,
running.
I'm not quite sure which page they were on.
Okay, but Pant's running down the wicket to Jimmy Anderson, whereas Thacker at least stood in his ground and played the shots. There's a difference, isn't there?
Well, Chris, as a leading batsman, as you know, Reg, will tell you that actually, in order to play attacking shots, you've got to have a base to do it. And actually trying to hit it on the run isn't a base, really. So
no, that's what I can't understand. I don't. And Norman's obviously a fine batsman. I don't believe he's run down the wicket too often to quick bowlers.
Yeah, he falls over when he runs down the wicket. In person.
Look, you know what, guys? Let me make this clear. Jealousy is a curse. when you bag a person's batting ability, it's clearly that you are jealous of it. Well, I know that. I know that's a trait.
I also feel like it's depending on the situation. Like when Pant did his second ball or third ball, he was batting with Rahane, who, let's be honest, looks like a walking wicket at the moment. But Rahane must have been Rahane must have been 5 of about 30 balls when he did it. You know, grafting his balls off. Whereas Thakur was batting with Yadav, so slightly different. And I said to my mate, I was like, because Rahane went straight down the wicket. I said, if I was Rahane, I'd have been giving Pant the barrels there. I'd say, what are you doing? I'm trying the best here. Like, we need to knuckle in. It was 100 for 5, 120 off for 6. So, interesting. What did you think of Jadeja going in before Rahane?
And before Pant, too.
If they're trying to break up the lines of right-handed, left-handed, that's actually quite a good move of Chris to do that.
Yeah, but David, as you know that's a kick in the teeth for a batsman, isn't it? A recognised batsman to be moved down the order.
You have to explain it to them, but everybody in a perfect world would like to have an equal balance between left and right-handers, and there's no doubt in my mind when England were successful in Australia with Strauss and Cook, it was because they were left-handed. The Australian bowlers just couldn't bowl to left-handed batsmen, or they were less potent as a force. So I didn't think that was a bad manoeuvre. Try to do something different, create something different to the opposition rather than just sit back and accept you're just going to get mown down again. So in some ways it worked, and you have to take your hats off to Kohli. He tried his best to leave the ball, and try and pick the right one to hit. And I thought he did really well.
It was just
very odd the way that he got out, actually, because that ball was actually quite close to his body. So I don't know whether he could have left it on height, but I thought he did really well.
Concentration just haven't got to 50. We've all done it.
Yeah. Well, it's a fearsome attack on a wicket that's got something in it. So there'll be some vying for positions moving forward with that group.
I mean, getting Joe Root out at the end of the day must have been massive for them. Absolutely massive.
Well,
it evens the game a little bit, doesn't it?
It shows the status of a player that actually the whole emphasis of the match is now changed by one ball.
Yeah.
It was a good ball as well. To be fair, like the man's in form of his life, and he really is. But it was a good delivery.
Yeah. I just think, Chris, that their attack or the ground itself and the runs they've got to play with, this could easily get out of control very quickly. That if you've got because Craig Overton can bat. He's a proper all-rounder.
I think England just have to get through first hour and look at every batsman coming in scores quickly. I mean, even Root and Milan last night were scoring at 4 and over.
Yeah.
So the game actually progressed quite a bit in that last hour. I think the game's probably 60-40 at the moment to England. I don't think India can claim to be on top after being 140 all out, 170 all out, 190 all out. Sorry,
191.
I don't think India can claim to be on top. I think if England get through the first half hour, that wicket looks like it might flatten out, and the sun's out for the next 2 days. Yeah. I just think it's one partnership for England, and the difference in the series that I see it is that when India have made a partnership, is that they score very slowly at the moment, so the game doesn't really progress. Whereas if 2 of England's middle order get in, the game will progress very quickly because they will score. Milan looked good again, didn't he?
Very good. But again, the left-hander.
Yeah.
Left-hander actually with a proper technique, Chris. instead of a
Chris doesn't know anything about that, David. Doesn't know about proper technique.
But I just think it's a really quick scoring ground, and I think they were out the game at tea time, and they're clinging by their fingernails by taking that last wicket.
Yeah,
but unless
that wicket's still very significant. Absolutely.
Yeah, but if they don't get wickets, as Chris is saying, and the way that these guys bat, Pope hasn't played a lot of cricket, so he might be.
He's busy though, David, isn't he? He's a busy player when he's in. He's like Joe Root in a way. He's going to be. It's going to be similar to Joe Root, isn't he? He's that sort of busy. Pope.
No, he's very good. He's an under-19 player, Reg, as well.
Yeah, he's come up.
Chris, can you get a bit close to the camera? You're so far away from the camera.
I don't want to get too close.
Why not?
I don't want to have. You've got already enough female fans about me. Getting.
Here we go. Jesus.
I was going to say, I don't know if I'm repeating what's been said here. You know that's the lowest first innings score at the Oval for about 10 years, and it's generally seen as very low just for the Oval.
I would have to say, Reg, looking at it, Chris, I don't know what it looked like from inside the ground. It looked as if it had a bit more grass on than it normally does. So
it certainly wasn't as white as it normally is.
Yeah.
Did you also know that it's Shardul Thakur broke a record yesterday?
Yeah, the quickest ever 50 at the Oval.
In England, in a Test match in England.
Okay. And the quickest 50 for an Indian in a Test match. Norman, did you know that? Beat Kapil Dev by 1 ball. So,
but it was magical to watch. Well, it must admit it was pretty exciting to watch. They did a great job.
Good.
It certainly made the day, as someone who was there, it certainly made the day. It had a bit of everything, really. 120 for 6 in the first 2 sessions. I wouldn't say India were particularly enthralling to watch. And there were people. It certainly lifted the crowd. Would
have lifted the Indians, wouldn't it, Chris?
Yeah. The one thing you would say about an English crowd is that generally, although they're supporting their team, is that they like seeing good cricket, and I think the whole crowd applauded him when he got out, and it was good to watch. And good to have Chris Wokes back though from an England point of view. Like he's such a good bowler. How he's only played 30 odd tests or 28 tests, or whatever he's played, is beyond me. But if you start thinking about an Ashes series, we've got Anderson. I mean, Ollie Robinson is literally Test match cricketer all over the place, isn't he? I mean, the guy looks phenomenal. Him, Anderson, Wokes, and Archer or Wood. I mean, and Stokes is turning into a pretty decent bowling attack there. So,
they've got great. England's got one of certainly the most depth in their bowling lineup of any country, even more than India. Just quickly, Tim Wilson Davies just mentioned to you, Reg, about going to visit a Lanzarote wine place that wins awards almost every year.
Right.
And I must also introduce, I've got a special guest coming in. I wanted to broaden it. We've had American people before, such as our lovely lady friend that we had before, but as in Pretty Upala. But now I have a man who's joining us from Los Angeles who's actually a pretty good cricketer. And he's also been to Australia many a time. His name is Jim Farbanik. He's about to join us. So welcome him, guys. We're bringing in Jim
Norman,
Farbanik.
I'm going to sign off because it's getting a bit difficult here.
You're going to say hello to Jim first. Right?
I'll just say hi. Hi.
Is it because
Jim.
I'm joined in?
Oh, yeah.
Is it because I'm here? I mean, come on. Like, if I'm here, you got to stay.
The problem is I'm running out of data.
Hour.
I've just had a message that says my provider is up. I've got no data left. It's taking up a bit of use because I'm not on Wi-Fi here.
Consequence of Brexit.
I'll chat to you all later, guys. Have a great day. Lovely to meet you, Jim. Take care.
So where are you exactly? You didn't quite tell us where you were. You're in Lanzarote in a resort.
Costa de Guis, which is east of the airport. It's only a small island. So
Lanzarote.
but it's about 30 degrees here, guys. So it's nice and warm.
Well, your son has just called it Lanzarote as opposed to Lanzarote. Is that right?
It's pretty nice, to be fair. We had a fantastic meal last night. So
Very jealous,
pretty impressed. But I'm going to sign off, guys. Have a great day and enjoy the cricket. Take care.
All right, Reg. Now, thank you for joining us, Jim. Now, Jim has travelled the world. He's watched cricket. He's actually played games of cricket in Sydney and taken one of the best
with Norm, actually.
Exactly. And he's taken one of the best gully catches I have ever seen.
I busted my hands saving the referee's face.
The umpires.
The umpires. But what about the guy that was just on, David? That guy was very knowledgeable.
Yeah, he is here. We've just lost him from him. His screen's gone a bit funny. So David Graveney, Jim, for your sake, David Graveney is here. He was a former chairman of selectors of English cricket, would select the players to play for their country. He played cricket himself at a very high level. His uncle was also a very famous cricketer of great note, having scored over 100 centuries, as well as his father and a great family. The Graveney family is very well respected. Chris Verne currently plays for MCC. That was his dad before with the dark glasses, who obviously is hungover from last night, I'm imagining. And we have a situation there where Chris has played a fairly...
Norm, I want to get David's take on Australia, New Zealand when the brothers bowled on the ground. What's his take on that?
What, Trevor Chappell?
Yes.
What's your take on that?
Well, the world of cricket has never forgotten it, Jim. Let's put it like that.
So, do you think that's one of the top 10 of all time?
The person you need to watch in that clip, Jim, is Rod Marsh, the wicketkeeper, who I think would have jumped on his gloves. I think because quite a lot of people in the Australian team did not think that was the right thing to do, and it still isn't the right thing to do. In fact,
it's a big moment, like for Australia and New Zealand cricket.
No. They don't, Jim. They don't need too much invitation to hate each other. Let's put it like that. So.
But that's like a huge, like if you're just a sports fan, like if you're to watch that and hear about it, like that's a massive deal.
Yeah, it was. It certainly was at the time. So, and it's one of those things that hasn't been forgotten. So,
no,
I'm sure there are incidences in American sport of a similar stature of somebody. Basically, they were cheating, Jim. So that's simple as that. And actually, the worst culprits were the umpires.
Yes,
they could easily step in and intervene.
So if I can interrupt, sorry, morning everyone. I said, Jim,
morning,
you could probably equate it to Tom Brady and Deflategate.
Yeah.
So Norm will know this game, but in 1996, there was Australia was like basically was the last bowl of the match, and Australia hit a home run or equivalent on the last bowl. What was that game?
Are you talking about the World Cup where they lost against Sri Lanka in '96?
Not '96. Not at Sri Lanka. It was like I think it was against England or South Africa or New Zealand.
Right.
But it was 1996.
Against someone.
Yeah, against someone.
It'll come to us. It'll come to us. Now, Munchie, this is Jim Farbanek. Now, Munchie,
hey, Jim.
Munchie, which is better known as Marcus Lawrence. He's actually based. His background is actually America. It's actually Philadelphia.
Yep, that's the Philadelphia Cricket Club.
But he's not really there. And Jim, of course, is actually in Mission Viejo in Southern California.
Oh, Viejo.
I know that.
Viejo.
It's not for JJ, okay? It's not for JJ.
Oh, Norm.
And Jim's there. He's very close to Laguna Beach and has a great house. We played cricket in his backyard 2 years ago, and I smashed him all over the backyard. Just to say that. So I just wanted to add that. All right.
Has that got
Chris,
any
don't shake your head
to what we're doing? Your batting achievements in a garden.
Yes. So Norm, like I was just telling Norm earlier before this whole broadcast, that it's amazing that everybody is intrigued by him and this channel. So that is a testament to people that love cricket, and then what he's doing.
Good.
Because if even though he's a total freak, he's still making people engaged with cricket, which is awesome.
So, Munchie, just on the record, you're the tiny fast bowler. Jim's probably the rather oversized fast bowler, actually, the Roger Ramjet of fast bowling. All right, we're going to get back to the game, guys. Enough frivolity. We've got a great game to talk about here. So, Chris, what is your thoughts on Ashwin's non-selection? Because Jimmy Maxwell went to town on this. What's your thought?
It's difficult, isn't it? Because on the face of it, the English media have had a field day as well. The problem is that you have to pick. It's either Ashwin or Jadeja, because that's the reason India are competing in this series is because they picked 4 fast bowlers. Look at the Lord's Test. Look at Jadeja's not taking a wicket hardly. He's taken the odd one. So they've got the balance of the side right. That they've picked 4 fast bowlers. It's just you then have to leave Jadeja out to pick Ashwin. That's the only slot, in my opinion. So. But Jadeja is a slightly better bat. Jadeja hasn't looked great with the bat this series. He's got a couple of 40s. So, but in my opinion, they've got the balance right. And India are trying to take England on with what suits these conditions, and it is for fast bowlers, and these conditions is what is going to win you Test matches, and that's been proven in both Test matches that have been won, and in the first Test, spinners have hardly done anything.
But Jadeja shades Ashwin in the field as well, so he's got slightly better bat and slightly better in the field as well. And I said before about almost a player and a half. He's that good. But given the bowling option, I agree with Chris. You've got to bowl Ashwin. Yeah, strange decision not to select him.
But there's been a lot. Gautam Bhattacharya, who's a very renowned journalist, probably the leading journalist of India, other than Buri Majumdar, has suggested quite strongly that there is perhaps a rift between Kohli and Ashwin. That there is something not au fait, that the perceptions are, because Kohli went at length to try to explain why Jadeja was in the side pre-match, and also in positioning Jadeja to bat positions up in the order. There's an element of discussion about is there a rift between those two players?
I don't think there's a rift, Norman. I think he's getting questioned quite rightly a lot about a bloke who's taken hundreds of wickets and why are you not selecting? And I think it's a sort of it's something that gets him quite emotional about having to answer that question time and time again. I personally, but it would have been a really difficult call. I just think that on this ground, as we've spoken before, the weather is so critical in England. So, if as Chris is suggesting, the sun is about to come out, and by next week it's supposed to be 26 degrees, they will be looking round, and if they're still in the game, trying to bowl England out in the fourth innings of the match, why haven't we got another spinner? For a country that, but how would you put him in? You would probably put him in for the bloke who just got 50 odd, which has kept India in the game anyway. So
I think India have got their side right. I think that they've just. I think it's just a crap spot, isn't it? I don't think you need two spinners. England play four seamers. India have won at Lords because they picked four seamers. So it's just making a difficult decision. Ashwin or Jadeja. You might play both at Old Trafford. I wouldn't be surprised if we have some hot weather. I think it's definitely a spinning pitch. So I'd be very surprised if they don't play two spinners there. But I would
suggest, Chris, to you that actually, whether the summer's been rubbish for weather in this country, apart from 1 week when it was about 100 degrees.
English weather is not good.
Yeah. So, which isn't actually the right thing to say in front of America, which is getting flooded or on fire most of the time.
We need in the southwest. We need some of the English rain.
I know you do a lot.
Actually.
So I think, Christian, if they turned up at the Oval and they knew that it was going to be cloudless skies for 3 days, I think that would have affected their selection. It would still have been a difficult call to make. But I just think that the Oval, I think you can say about Trent Bridge, if we're playing Edgbaston, which we're not, Leeds, you do need, uneven bounce is the thing that just come in during the game. I just think at the Oval and Old Trafford, spin has a better part to play. But if it's going to stay overcast, and it is, and cold, which it has been, then you go with the four seamers. So, but I do think they've got to have the same accuracy as Bumrah has when he bowls, because this is a ground where you can leak 8 and over if you're not careful.
Well, England scored at 4 and over last night.
Yeah.
In the last 40 minutes of play where it should be really tough, Root and Milan literally made it look like they're batting on, a main road. So I don't actually think the pitch did a lot yesterday. I think that there was just a lot of poor batting. The odd decent ball, the way the India, Pant shot, a couple of poor shots in there, a bit of a farcical end with Bumrah getting run out. But I think there's just been, as shown throughout, as we said at the start of the series, is just both sides batting isn't good enough. India's probably more so than England in these conditions, but both sides' bowling attacks have been fine. I don't think there's anything bad about either side's bowling attacks this season.
Well, they've got to reproduce Bumrah's accuracy because he is without doubt the main threat. And some of the shots of the England players, but all right, Burns might have been a little unlucky to ricochet it onto the stumps. But if you've got a back lift like that, there's half a chance it will go back on the stumps. And,
as I said, there's so many moving parts. Yeah.
And how many, still on naught for Hamid to play, which is a pretty expansive shot on naught. That wasn't the best choice. So.
No, too close to the body. I think looking at the weather down here, I think the sun's going to be out most of the day, or at least bright cloud at the Oval. David, Chris probably have more experience, but that should be a batting day.
Yeah. No.
And then looking at the forecast in the future, David said, we're looking for a mini heat wave next week, but then towards the end of next week, that's when rain's coming, and that's going to hit Old Trafford. So it's going to make very interesting team selections if we're going on this Ashwin debate. But it's a shame that Monty's not here, because Monty at Old Trafford has done really well. It's not just the spin, but he gets the bounce up there as well.
No, he's bowled balls that Jim. This is Monty Panesar, played for England. And I try and emulate him in my career, bowling left arm spin, and he bowled balls at Old Trafford that you just dream about, basically. So.
But isn't England favoured with the weather versus India?
Well, I think what has made a difference, Jim, in the last few, well, certainly I don't know what Chris whether it's like with him. It has been unseasonably cold more than anything else. The people having to switch on their central heater. I know that's a minor point, Jim, given the weather issues that you have in America. You wouldn't find this in Mumbai anyway. The weather,
but English weather is always bad, and India is always hot.
It's not always
define bad. Yeah, define bad. Yeah, you could have a temperate climate. Could be quite good for some people.
But that's why I'm
thinking. Jim defines bad like I define tiny.
Yeah, but English weather is always wet. So it's like if you're bowling or you're hitting, it's always going to be wet. And India is hot and wet.
Oh, there's some horrible rain coming out of the sky at the moment.
You got some bad press.
Right?
Honestly, think that's why
reveal my background, Jim, is that my stepmother lived in Tyler, Texas.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So I'm trying to explain to somebody in Texas, because they are slightly different than anybody else in the whole of America, about cricket was a challenging thing for me, to say the least.
Well, Texas can have the craziest weather. So like my friend lives there, and you could have a shift of 30 to 40 degrees.
Oh, no, yeah.
It's crazy. Like California is always sunny, but in the East Coast it's always wet and stormy or hot in the summer. But Texas can be a shift of hailstorm and then sunny 2 hours later.
Freezing rain. So going back to your point about the weather in England, for the next 3 days, the weather is supposed to be set fair.
Okay.
So this test match will be played to a conclusion. So you can take a draw. I know it's a very strange concept for Americans to understand, that you can play for 5 days and end up with a draw, but it does exist in the game of cricket. But this won't go to a draw.
Okay, we've got a question here from Shai Manju. How many chances are England going to give Ollie Pope? Now that's a fair question. Ollie Pope is back on the side. There's an expectation. This is his opportunity to actually get runs in a very important stage of the match, as he's next in the bat, we assume.
He's been unlucky with a couple of injuries, hasn't he? Like he's had a couple of big shoulder operations. He averages over 60 and about 60 in first class cricket. He's done pretty well for England when he's played. And he's only a young lad. You know, I think that it's very clear that they think he's the next best thing or the next Joe Root. So, you know, he's going to have plenty of opportunities, and probably rightly so. It's not like we've got Peterson, Bell, Collingwood, and Pryor in the middle order banging down doors. So, you know, he's going to have plenty of chances to do well, and he looks the part. You know, he's a good player, isn't he, for sure?
Yeah, you mentioned Bell there, Chris, isn't he? Because he's referred to as the baby Bell. If you look at that cover drive he's got, it's almost an exact replica for Ian Bell. No, I think Pope's got talent there, and obviously Dave would be the person would have seen him coming through the academy structure. Yeah,
part of my under-19s team.
Yeah.
What's the equivalent of England and the Ashes with India?
What do you mean? Do you mean
is there an equivalent like New Zealand?
Well, they played
Australia,
for,
England,
what is it?
Ashes.
Is it Is it a Botham Gavaskar trophy?
Is it the
border?
What's the
Interesting,
equivalent
obviously.
of India and England with the Ashes?
Well, India and England certainly becoming very similar to that, albeit Australia versus India is becoming very similar. But I would argue if there's ever a rivalry which dates back to its earlier stages, India versus Pakistan would have to be in that level.
No, but what is the equivalent of India and England compared to the Ashes?
Well, Jim, it will just be it'll be named as a trophy after a famous previous player, and I don't know which one it is.
But that's
normally,
it.
It's normally Gavaskar features on most things. So.
Yeah, what is it? Because we've got the border Gavaskar
itself,
trophy. What is between England?
But the Ashes is pretty ridiculous. Like when you think about it, it's like this tiny little trophy. If like you compare that to any trophy in America or anywhere else, it's.
Imagine if Americans did big over the top stuff as well. Luckily, Americans are known for their really sort of downplaying, really small. Imagine if it was over the top and loud.
So but like when you hear about the Ashes, it's like this tiny trophy.
Well, you wouldn't believe, Jim.
It's pretty wild.
Yeah. Well, the guys online have come up with the trophy. Sorry, David. It's the Pataudi. My apologies for any pronunciation, but that's only for the games between England and India in England. So whereas the Ashes is always England versus Australia wherever the game is played, the Pataudi is only England versus India in England.
Is that right? So there's not an English name attached to it. It's just the Warburg Pataudi.
Oh, that was Baramarani, of course. He's made that comment.
Yeah, well, no, you've got Sorav and you've got Vasanth as well. So obviously, people are on there. Thank you very much, guys.
Well, what does Pataudi stand for?
They should come up with a trophy for England, India.
Yeah, no. Well, they do, but it's just hasn't got an English name on it, Jim.
They should call it the turmeric.
Baramarani, what is Pataudi?
Sorry,
tell us what Pataudi is. I've got no idea. Chris, do you know what Pataudi is?
Right, I've just picked up on my other screen. It's the Pataudi cricketing family.
Yeah.
Iftikhar Ali Khan Pataudi. Once again, my apologies for any pronunciation. Who played for both teams? It's going back quite a while then.
Played for Sussex, Norman.
Yeah.
And he tragically lost an eye, but still managed to play at a very, very high level. But it was the selection of the team at that stage was definitely drawn from families that were wealthier than others. Probably the best way I could describe it. Really.
Nice.
And the Nawab means that it's a sort of a semblance of colonial times gone by. Let's put it like that.
Well, what a great question, Jim. What a great question, Jim Farbanek. I haven't heard a question like that from Chris Vernon for a while. So, can you match that, Chris?
No,
Chris knows more about cricket than I do.
But I actually have a question that came up a couple of days ago, and as we've got David and Chris online, perhaps it's a good question that came up. I can't remember actually who asked the question, and the question was regarding the Indian batsman, and the question was, can batsmen be taught not to keep wafting outside the off stump?
Good question.
I think you certainly can. I mean, Rohit Sharma has certainly clearly changed his technique and is certainly trying his best. I mean, I'm not saying he's been massively successful, but he certainly is being more successful. You can, of course you can. Ultimately the best players find ways to overcome whatever difficulties they face. As Joe Root's been doing it. Joe Root has clearly upped his game. Steve Smith did it, a few years ago, and yeah, of course you can practice it. It's just something you just have to work on and drill, and the best players will always find a way to overcome it. I just think that India maybe have approached the series with a slightly wrong attitude. I think that Kohli's style of leadership is quite brash and quite almost arrogant to the point where I think that some of the batters or the bowlers is rubbing off a bit. I think they're going out there with a mindset, and even if you look at Rishabh Pant, I'm just going to go out and try and whack it, not try and graft in. If Rishabh Pant played some of those shots in an England changing room or, under different captains, I think that he would be completely and utterly annihilated. So I think that it may be just an attitude problem, thinking we can just hit our way out of this in IPL style rather than let's get our head down and try and graft it out. but yeah, I think he definitely can adapt for sure. I mean, the best players do, as proven all the time. So
why was India so bad in the 90s and they're good now?
Well, if you think that they were bad, that's a moot point. There's no doubt the introduction of the IPL has upped the ante in terms of fitness, commitment that is needed, and it's acted as an inspiration. And you're talking, Jim, about a vast population that all want to play cricket for India. And it's inspired a whole generation of understanding. The financial rewards are immense. So yeah, it's inspired a generation to go and play. So
and why hasn't the West Indies come back?
Well,
they have.
You're sitting in a country. You're sitting in a country which is the reason why they haven't.
Yeah,
oh, really.
If you went to Jamaica and to Barbados, which were the two islands that basically produced most of the West Indies players, all you'll see is an American sport. So you will the people inspired to be a wide receiver for San Francisco 49ers rather than bowl fast for the West Indies. And in Jamaica, they have produced world-class athletes, and that also is an inspiration for them. So the financial, probably Munchie, and Chris is probably a bit too young for this, but if you went to the West Indies in the 80s when they were at their best, everybody was playing cricket in the streets. Now, I've been back to the West Indies in the last 5 years, and nobody's they're not listening to it on the radio. 2, they're not playing it in the streets because it doesn't inspire them.
That's just because of money as much as anything, money and accessibility as well.
Yeah,
I mean, you can. What does a West Indian cricketer earn? Probably 20, 30k a year, which compared to the million, $500,000 that the English Aussies or the Indians earn, is nothing. Whereas you can go and play basketball, go and play baseball, and earn millions a year. You know, I know what I'd be doing. You know, if you had a choice to pick one of the two, you know, ultimately you're going to enjoy playing both, and it's a career, isn't it? You're always going to 9 times out of 10 pick.
But do you have West Indies cricket players moving to Australia or South Africa or England?
They come to England. I think the also thing for you to realise, Jim, is the word West Indies is only used in one sport, which is cricket.
Right.
As opposed to people representing the States or England, you would draw on all states in America. All right. But the West Indies in cricket have to draw from a number of countries. So they've all got different governments, they've all got different currencies, and getting them to sit around the table and make honest decisions about who should be playing is a little more difficult than it is in other countries. So
right.
It's
a huge power struggle.
Yeah, massive power struggle. So that's one of the problems that does cause an issue. And I don't know what the other guys think, but I've always thought that actually a strong West Indies team, because of the passion that they bring to the table, is good for the game of cricket worldwide. If the West Indies aren't strong, it's in some ways we're missing something.
But can they be organized enough?
They've just appointed a new CEO who is actually English. What the problem they have, Jim, is, and it's not just unique to cricket, is that past players are very keen to say the current generation are not as good as the ones that used to play in the past, and don't do anything to change that.
Right.
So, but I think they are. Well, we'll find out. I'm about to be involved with the England under-19 teams to play against the West Indies tomorrow. So we'll find out what their strengths like.
Interesting.
If you want some example of what it used to be like, Jim, there is a brilliant film documentary called Fire in Babylon. I heartily look for that. Amazon, I think it's on Amazon actually, Amazon Prime, but it really gives you an idea. This goes back to the West Indies in the 70s and the start of the great fast bowling era, which is truly fearsome bowlers, and I guess David probably would have faced most of them.
Yeah, most of them hit.
But they were West Indies were dominant in the 80s, right?
They were, yeah.
Like nobody could stop them. Like they would just. Who was the guy that was the Indian guy? Was like a tiger.
Oh, the tiger was Imran
Indian
Khan,
guy.
yeah, they're Pakistan, when they come out fighting like tigers. 92 World Cup, I think that was. Yeah.
He was pretty.
Ironically,
He was dominant.
So David, David, you bring up your history. You've got some great history there.
Sorry?
You talk about it.
Nawar Bataldi's nickname was actually Tiger Bataldi. So.
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah.
Oh, there you go. Great.
I'm getting pinged, Norman, so I'm going to have to go. Lovely to meet you, Jim, David. A pleasure.
All right.
Chris, always good to see you again.
Thanks,
Sir.
Bugsy.
Norman,
Thanks,
great.
Bugsy.
Catch you everyone soon. Bye.
See ya.
Tiny fast bowler.
Now, you have a job to do, Chris. Is there someone asking after you? Could you read the comment, please?
Yeah, I said hello in the comments. Yes, Sandy, hello. Nice. I'm looking at the comments, so I did comment. So nice to be here. I've got to go probably in about 5 minutes as well, Norman. So I've got a.
That's right. Can you pronounce your Sunday's last name, though?
Yeah, of course I can. Yasandi Haputhanthri.
Very well said.
Haputhanthri, is that right? Yasandi?
Now, she's come on generally for you. She's a young singer. She's based, well, she has a Sri Lankan background, but she's based in England, as far as I'm aware, and supports England madly. So there you go.
I heard she sang a song for you, Chris.
Well, I'm always happy to
Accommodate.
always happy to hear it. Yeah.
Are you playing today, Chris, or not?
No, I'm coaching. I've got some one-to-ones later at my club, but I've just got a load of stuff to do. I'm playing tomorrow. We've got 2 more Saturdays left. So
Normie's busy. Give him a break. Jeez.
No, but hang on. But the fact is, Chris is actually he's running amok in the house. Seeing his parents are not there, they're in Lanzarote. He's actually probably arranging some big party. Is that correct?
well, I can't possibly comment on that. You know, we'll have to wait and see. So if you don't see me next week, then I might still be recovering.
Is it your birthday, Chris, or somebody else's?
Birthday?
Or birthday, or
No birthdays. Just got running.
It's a Friday. That's what you do in England.
Exactly. It's 5 o'clock somewhere, Jim, isn't it?
Exactly. You got to have fun.
You actually, Jim, you mentioned before we went off or digressed about why do batsmen play wide balls, all right? And I think there is some correlation, because it's part of my life talking to Americans in Texas about cricket and baseball. It's a little bit like high balls in baseball.
Yeah.
Don't go for the high balls because you can't control where you're going to hit them. And that's a little bit the same as a wide ball in cricket.
But the interesting thing is, like, when I played baseball, like, I always loved hitting the high pitches.
Yeah, but could you control them then?
Yeah.
All right. Well,
but like that's not the norm, right?
No, that isn't the norm.
No, it's not the norm. But like
certainly isn't the norm. On the norm.
But you run the risk of missing it,
yeah,
or controlling it.
So that would be the same principle in cricket. The farther it's away from you, the lack of control you have in terms of whatever shot you play. It doesn't mean to say you can't play them, but it's just
your lack of control.
If I was looking at
when
Chris
you do
Batsman,
get it, when you get
his strength
it,
would be that he plays in England. It's called within the bubble, so he would hit the balls that were reasonably close to him because he could control their destination. The wider it gets, the less chance you have of controlling that. So
what is your take on one day versus test matches?
Well, I think they both have a part, Jim, because I think the people who run the game of cricket, they have to realise that the modern generation, in part, wants to see a shorter version of the game. Well, they don't like the game, but there's so many other things to do in their lives that they just can't afford the time to watch it. Whereas I think Test match cricket, if Test match cricket died, we might as well pack and go home, because that would be the end of the game.
Right.
I agree.
But Test match cricket is the root of cricket.
Yeah, that is the pinnacle. Only concern, the IPL is a fantastic product and has excited millions, literally millions of young people around the world as something to do, whether they're playing, whether they're watching. However, I might be a bit old-fashioned, Jim. I think the pinnacle of playing a professional career, or you should aspire to, is representing your country. And representing your country in Test match cricket is, in my mind, the pinnacle.
And how would you compare Test match cricket and one day versus rugby union and rugby league?
Well,
do you like rugby? Do you like rugby or?
Yeah, no. I'm watching.
Yeah.
I've just got my season ticket to watch the Bristol Bears. You're actually talking to somebody who's sitting in what is now deemed to be bear country.
All right.
But
so would you compare
rugby
Test
league
match
and rugby union
and
actually
rugby
are
league
two different sports? Sorry.
How would you compare rugby union, rugby league versus Test match and one day, or do they not compare?
Well, I think rugby union does, because if you're talking about representing your country, a lot of people like to watch. All the English players aspire to play for their country.
Yeah.
Rugby league is an odd thing, Jim, because it's a very specific area of the UK. Was deemed on to be not the right thing to do, because it was a professional in an amateur environment, and as Chris was pointing his finger upwards, it's definitely played in the north, and it tends to be played between Yorkshire and Lancashire as two specific counties.
Rugby union, rugby league is basically a north-south divide. Like, it sounds silly, but if you live in the south, you play rugby union. If you live in the north, it's rugby league, and it is obviously there's the odd club that break that, but Grav will tell you, it is literally a split, a complete and utter cut down the middle.
Do you guys
except
prefer
the South Sydney Rabbitohs, which breaks all the mold because they're the best rugby league team on the planet.
Rugby union or rugby league?
I don't like rugby league at all, but then I'm a Southern boy, so I don't watch a lot of club rugby, but I would always watch England play rugby, Six Nations, but I don't have any interest in rugby league, and that's just because I live nearly as far south as they come in England. So I've never ever. I follow it. If England are playing in the Rugby League World Cup, then I would probably take an interest, but not massively. But as I said, it's a very weird sport in this country because it literally is a north-south thing.
There are lots of people, not lots. There are examples of people playing rugby league and then transferring over to rugby union. What has happened in both rugby league and rugby union is a lot of people coming from the South Pacific play in those respective sports, either coming from Fiji, Samoa, and also they end up playing for Australia and New Zealand as well. So it's just that they happen to be huge units. They actually would be really good running backs in the NFL.
Who was Johnny that kicked the shot around the world when they beat Australia? What was his name?
Johnny Wilkinson.
So why is Johnny Wilkinson such a great rugby union player for his country, and then a really good player for
Jim? Can I just put it in one phrase for Norman's benefit? Anybody who plays for England who kicks a winning kick to beat Australia in the World Cup final will have his name in lights for the rest of his life.
It's amazing.
He won't have his name in lights in Australia, that's for sure. We've quickly.
So my wife and I were traveling. We were on our honeymoon in Australia, and we watched England play Samoa in where was it?
2003.
The port office in Brisbane.
No. Where was it? It was in Cairns. It was in Cairns somewhere. But anyway, Samoa was beating England the first half, and then it was a brutal match. And then England came back and beat them the second half, and then they came back and won the World Cup. But that was, England's like a great rugby nation.
Yeah, if those sort of countries, if you were trying to beat them physically, then it would be a problem, because they are, it doesn't matter what position they're playing, they're all built the same way. So I don't know whether the correlation I would give you with the NFL, it would be a side like Samoa who would run the ball all the time. They wouldn't pass it. They'd just run it and just try and break the opposition physically. Whereas England would play with a little bit finesse and try and run round the opposition. So that number tends to kick into the game a bit later on in the match.
But England,
guys, I need to go. If that's
like
possible.
for rugby, is very resilient.
Okay.
Like
Jim, Chris has got to go. Chris, before you go, what's your prediction of today?
Prediction for today. I think England will bat for two. Maybe I wouldn't put it past maybe England batting all day today. I think there's some guys. I think the pitch will flatten out a bit. I think that England will probably bat till just after tea and maybe have an hour, 45 minutes bowling tonight. I think we'll have a lead of about 150, and then I predict England to win the test.
So 150 lead. That means they're already 130.
If Chris's
so
predictions
288
through, then Sunday's tickets might be not worth a lot. So.
Yeah, I think England will get between 350 and 400
today. So that means they're going to score 288 today.
Well, I think that's what England will get in their. I think England will score. Yeah, 2.5 sessions. You'd get 250 runs potentially, wouldn't you?
Well, the guys have got the crease. The biggest lead that India, I think, can manage is something between 50 and 100. Anything beyond that, they're dead.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. Well, it's going to be up to someone like Chris Wokes, I think, to bat well. I'm not suggesting. I don't think Ollie Pope will get runs, and I don't think Ali will get runs. Anyway, that's my thoughts. Okay, Chris. So you think? Okay, you're saying 150 lead, and we'll go from there. All right.
Norm, he just said it. He just told you what he thought.
I'm repeating it because I'll quote. I will
What
quote.
do you want him to say? He just.
I'm repeating because I'll quote him later. We have quotes here. I mean,
Norm, what do you want him to say? He just told you.
Sharma's scores. I don't think that's going to. All right.
Have a good one, guys. We'll chat soon.
All right, Chris. Thank you, Chris.
Nice to see you, Jim. Cheers,
Peace
Chris. Cheers, Norm. Bye.
See you, Chris. It's good to have Chris on. It's good to have his dad on, isn't it, David? They're good value. And Munchie as well. It's a great bunch. And now, Jim, I tell you what, David, you've got your match here. Jim knows more about sport than the average American would ever be able to muster. Not many people from California could quote rugby league, and cricket the way he has.
So, which in the various sports, Jim, which ones are your favourite teams?
Or what?
Well, let's say NFL.
I don't know. NFL, it's. I don't really have a NFL team.
Right.
They're all
baseball.
We just went to an Angel game.
Right.
But they're all different players, and it's different. Like it's not like it used to be when we grew up, right? Like you have these hometown players, and people move around, and then it's just different. Like I think
the world's a smaller place, Jim, so people can travel around and whatever. And even when I played my professional career cricket, all the team came from the same area. So,
yeah, I mean, I think it's like I probably lean more towards college football than professional football.
Yeah, no, and actually, that's my brother. Sadly, he was no longer with us. That's what he used to watch all the time. Was college.
Oh, really?
Yeah. He couldn't believe the size of crowds that college football attracts. Have you ever watched it, Norman?
I have. It's phenomenal. The actual
over 100,000.
They're more fanatical than ever.
College football.
Who did your brother follow, David?
I was just trying to think that, Jim. I thought you were going to ask me that, but it's. I will find that out for the next time.
Was it the University of Texas or?
No, it wasn't any Texas ones. Don't worry. We'd had enough Texans by that stage. So.
Yeah. It is strange,
so Jim, hang on, Jim. I want you to nail you down. Who is your NFL side? Give me a side. Don't sit on the fence like that. You'll get
so when I grew up, when I was younger, I followed the Rams.
It's quite an American, quite a common thing that people, for some reason or other, just don't like NFL because of the way it's run. Whereas the college football is a pure thing. This is young players.
It's not really pure. It's all money based, but it's.
I know it's money based, but it's young talented players.
It's a lower level of money based.
Yeah.
So if you're a professional, I think it gets diluted. If you're following professional football, you get diluted. So like the purest form of football is probably high school football, but it's not that entertaining to watch.
Yeah.
Then you go the next level, which is college football, which is a mid-level pro, in between the professional level and the high school level, and that's probably the purest, but it's still corrupt. And then you get to the professional level, which is all about money.
Yeah.
Right. So I think that's why people like college football, is because it's a high level of play and it's semi-corrupted.
Money.
Oh, but
it's the same
Jim,
thing.
Jim, I want a team. I want a team, Jim.
Sorry, Jim.
So if you watched a middle school cricket club,
Yeah.
and they're just trying the best that they can, but then they're not playing at that higher level, you're like, it's fun to watch, but it's not that entertaining.
Yeah.
Then you go up to the pre-professional level or the country level play, and it's fun to watch, and they're maybe not making as much money. And then you go to the club level, and then they're like, it's all about money, and it just dilutes it.
Yeah. So one in my position of trying to identify new talent, what you're wanting to do, Jim, is to get the best to play against the best in their own peer group at their own age level, so you can actually judge them against something. So that's what you're seeking to do, which sometimes is difficult.
Yeah,
and it's more difficult. And I'm trying to give you some comparisons. It's like baseball. It's baseball's an individual sport, and only one guy pitches and there's one guy who hits, which is the same with cricket. There's a batsman and there's a bowler. They are a team, but it's actually an individual sport within a team.
right.
Whereas if you're looking at American football, you're looking at rugby union or soccer, as you would call it, it's interlinked. You need the other people in the team to help you to show off your skills.
But you still need those individual stars to be successful.
Yeah, but you can isolate in cricket and baseball actual individual players and assess how good they are.
Partially, but even in cricket, I still think you need those individual stars to really propel the team, right?
I know. But when I was selecting the national team, one of the qualities I was looking for is how much are you a team player? In terms of what are you going to contribute to the team? In some ways, you're trying to get the players to be selfish about their own performance, but also not at the deference of the team ethic of what they're trying to do. So it's always a bit of a balance.
Interesting.
Well, it's the same as we've studied a lot around what happens in American sport, like the draft, for instance.
Well, like football
So
is an example of one of the best team sports. Is that the Kevin Costner movie?
No, well, it's a little bit like that, actually. Yeah. But do you know anything about the draft, Norman?
Me, about the way, you mean the real draft or the book, The Draft?
Well, the concept of talent testing, bringing college players to all do the same drills or exercises. Yeah. So, and it does show that the amount of stats that American sport gather on players, we've tried to follow that as well, Jim, because you can actually prove one player being better than the other because of the stats they produce.
Yeah,
it's intriguing, isn't it? It is very intriguing.
And then what it does is take out the emotion, Jim, of somebody saying, for some other reason you don't know, I like this bloke or don't like him, because I, in the end, stopped asking coaches of teams about their own players because it would always be biased. It'd either be biased because he really thinks he was really good, or he might have fallen out with the bloke the week before.
Well, it's all emotional, it's all that state of mind for that moment.
You're taking out the emotion to try and make the right sort of decisions.
Well, same thing with soccer, you watch a team bring up Man U's bringing up back Ronaldo, and then he's a superstar in all these different clubs, and he was with Man U, and he comes back to that team. Either he's going to gel with that team or he's not, and he's not going to help them, or he's going to help them push forward.
But the one thing that he shows up, Jim, and the one thing he shows up is that actually you should look after your body, because physically he might be, his birth certificate might say he's 36, but physically he's about late 20s, because he has trained like you never believe.
Yeah.
And hasn't actually, fortunately for him, which you can't train for or whatever, had quite a low level of injury rates.
Yep.
So he'll play until he's 40.
We'll see. I mean, you don't know until you you could get one big injury and that takes you out, or you could get little injuries and keep going.
I'm amazed that running backs managed to survive a year, let alone 4 or 5 years. But
so I was in a Campbell's Chunky Soup commercial with Kurt Warner and Terrell Davis.
All right, yeah.
So Terrell Davis was there with his mom, and he just had his knee injury. And so this guy was like the other guys I was with, they were like, man, he's like a thoroughbred. Look at him. But his leg that was injured was weak and it was healing. But his career was only like 6 years, and he was one of the best in the league.
Whereas the other guy that Jim's talking to, Kurt Warner, was a quarterback who are a protected species, Norman, in terms of American sport. Well, quite rightly, because they're the major players. So,
but do you know, like when he got hit when they were playing against the Saints, I was watching that when I was with my real estate partner, and he got hit. And I told her, I said, there's no way that they should have hit him like that. And it came out like 2 years later that was a whole bounty thing where they were trying to knock him out.
Yeah. Well, the Saints coach got suspended. But anyway, going back to the game, Norman, because I've got to leave in a minute. I think the having been bowled out for 190, the Indians have to take wickets on a regular basis. If they're not making inroads, this game could slip away from them by tea time.
Absolutely. The England batting lineup is quite deep. Even Robinson can have a good old hit. He's not bad at all. And they've got obviously Moeen Ali, who bats well there. So Pope, let's hope he does well. And probably the one that's the game changer is Chris Wokes, because he could well do what Shardul Thakur did. He can take the game away with a great deal of. He's capable of getting centuries, as we know. Yeah. Didn't he score a century against Pakistan? Was it last year?
Well, no, they all score hundreds, and but they are genuinely, attacking players. And the only thing that will stop them attacking is if India take wickets regularly. And I'm just concerned that, having watched the bowling yesterday, they are leaking runs unnecessarily.
Yeah,
because they just can't maintain, and that happened at Headingley. All right, you can't defend 79, but even when they got 79, the way they were bowling was a worry, because they just couldn't bowl consistent line and length. So,
well, Siraj only bowled 2 overs, and he was taken from 20 odd. He was given quite a shellacking in those couple of overs, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Who's the highest ranking team in the world internationally?
Well, they've actually New Zealand, Jim.
New Zealand is?
Yeah. So what they've done is which I think was really good. Everybody said it couldn't be done. Is to analyse take the top 8 nations or whatever, and over a 2-year period, they're supposed to play a minimum fixtures against everybody, and from that they work out who are the best 2 teams to play, which they did in England earlier on in the season. Obviously, in a COVID world, that was very difficult to organise. But New Zealand played India, and New Zealand won the day, which is great.
So, I mean, that's pretty impressive that New Zealand is the top ranked team in the world.
They had the best results, and they've got some really good players, Jim.
For like what, 3 under 4 million people?
Yeah. And also, you mentioned rugby union.
Look at that, yes.
It's the all-conquering sport in New Zealand. So they did really well.
That's where Norm and I met on a Kontiki tour in New Zealand.
Is that right?
We did.
More than 20 years ago.
26 years ago.
Right. Norman, Jim,
right,
pleasure to meet you. I hope you get some rain soon. You can have some of ours. I mean, actually, it sounds like you can get some from New York. They seem to have copped a lot in the last 48 hours. And I'll catch up with you later, Norman. That's all right.
Thank you, Dave. Thank you very much.
Actually, that email I sent you, it's not his mother, it's his wife.
Okay, it's progressed. I got something back, but I'll talk to you about that offline. It's progressing. Okay. Is there a time limit? Do you want something done? Is it
no.
Okay.
The key thing
I think this is the highest rated show for Norm's channel ever. I think because David and myself are here, we're the highest rated show ever.
Right.
All right, David. So I'll talk to you offline about that email. Don't worry.
Let's have another chat soon, Jim. See you later.
All right. Sounds good.
See you later on.
Thanks, David.
Take care.
Jim, do you realise that you were in esteemed company, other than, of course, myself? And by the way, Arnold Ingalls saying that I was born on the 7th of January, 1980. I'm 41 years old. Thank you. That's totally incorrect. I don't know where that date came from, but thank you. So the thing is, David Graveney is immense in cricketing circles, having been the selector for the England side for a number of years. A number of the major players playing now, he selected and brought them into play. He's still in that role now as we speak. His uncle played for England at the highest level. David himself played at the very highest level of county, which is like, let's say, state. And he played against some of the most incredible players that you could ever imagine. He's so well connected. He's a lovely bloke. He's also was personal friends with Princess Diana. And at her funeral, if you look at the video of Elton John playing his Candle in the Wind version, right next to the piano is David Graveney.
Really?
Yes.
So. He seemed very knowledgeable about cricket, and if he was giving advice on cricket, I'd probably listen to him. Well,
and you were pretty good too. You were really gunned there with the questions, I must say.
I don't know much about cricket, but I can ask questions.
So I don't think I'll say Norman is showing on Stump about my age. That's interesting. Okay, that's all right. So let's get back to a few things here. Your questions were very good, Jim. Now your role's going to be you're now going to have a role where you're going to connect with us, and you're going to get into the teeth of American cricket, Cricket USA or Cricket America. You are now charged with the responsibility. You've been ordained to be our American connection or counterpart that will actually provide updates where necessary on what's happening in America with cricket. Now that means you'll have to travel the whole of America, go to all the nooks and crannies, watch every single cricket game. Now, the reality is we want you to. I think if you do a bit of homework, because you're very investigative with your approach, and I like that. We're now going to charge you with the responsibility, and I'll get my official.
Am I being paid for this responsibility?
Yes, you are in chocolate biscuits.
Oh, chocolate nice. Tim Tams?
Well, actually, I was more thinking, not that I happen to have them here. Arnott short.
Oh, Arnott's. What are those ones with the Jaffa, the orange in them?
Yeah, I'm not sure, but yeah, they're called orange slices, I think. But my crystal ball is like also an ordainer. I'm ordaining you, Sir Jim Farbanek, the ruler of America in terms of updates into the future. Maybe. So you've seen that Rabbitoh's there. We've got Jimmy Maxwell, who's been on our program. Boris Majunda's been on our program. And David Hooks unfortunately passed away. But I'm going to get you to, if you don't mind, Google away. Google's a great tool. Get a bit of a cricket American understanding. We'll get briefings from you over time. You'll get paid in kind.
All right.
Kisses, perhaps. I'm not sure.
So what do you foresee for cricket in America?
It's huge. It's the second biggest audience in the world for cricket, behind India. It's bigger than Australia, bigger than Pakistan, bigger than most countries. It's right up there.
Is there a league, or is it just like tournament play?
Oh, there's several leagues. Jim Farbanek, you're about to meet none other than Gurkharat Singh Gill, who looks like he's just gone into an operation with that mask.
Yeah, getting rid of this mask.
Please put your mask on. We don't want COVID on this channel.
Have you been COVID tested?
No,
yes.
I've just reached.
Where did you say?
No, I wear it all the time, except for when I'm in my own room. So I've now reached a space where only I am, working. So that's why I took it off. So yeah.
Norm, he's quarantined. He's quarantined himself.
What do you guys make of the game and the?
Norm,
yeah. So Gil,
I'm also fully vaccinated.
I'm glad.
Sorry,
Gil, you started your live show yesterday.
That's a weekly thing or a fortnightly thing on Instagram, but it's nothing like discussing a game or something. It's just about looking back at a few. I thought that since Dale Steyn called it a day, and his career is definitely worth celebrating, so I should do that. It was just a simple thing, but yeah, don't worry. Regardless of what I do or what I don't do, I'll always find time to come on this show. Don't worry.
I appreciate that big time. I'm just loving this. Anna Jingle has said that my birthday is 7th of January 1980 on this website, Stump to Stump. I must have lied to them. Anyway, okay. Now, Tim Wilton Davies, thoughts on Hamid scratching the ground, taking guard. Steve Smith's sequel. Did he try and ruin the guard? I'm not sure what he was doing, but the reality is Hamid's batting. Gil, what do you think of Hamid's batting?
I thought it was a very poor shot early on in the innings when a wicket had just fell. As far as the guard is concerned, I think it's something that we are reading too much into. But the fact of the matter is that Hamid played quite a poor shot, considering how a wicket had just fell. Even for that matter, Burns tried to run down a delivery which was quite close to his off stump, and which is why he dragged it on to his stump. So. When we were discussing how India had bowled in the previous game, I had said that Bumrah's bowled quite well to not get too many wickets. But yesterday was a case where Bumrah hadn't bowled that well, but he still got the reward for it. It's something that happens in the game, that when you bowl well, you don't necessarily pick wickets, but when you bowl just about decently, you get a few gifts because of how you had bowled previously. So I think it was more to do with that. And yeah, India would be very happy that they got Joe Root yesterday, because if Joe Root was still the way he's been batting the series at stumps, India would have had a very uneasy sleep. And he came out with all guns blazing once again yesterday. He played his fourth ball, which was on the off stump. He actually guided it to third man, which was his very fourth ball. So to do that takes immense amount of confidence. So if I'm able to put into words, I'd say that Joe Root's probably batting with Virender Sehwag's confidence and maybe Sachin Tendulkar's technique, because he's going after everything. He's confident that he's going to nail every shot. And as of now, regardless of what India do, they really don't know. Yesterday I thought was one of a gem of a delivery. But apart from that ball, there was hardly anything that had troubled Root. So if he would have gotten in, I have no doubts that he would have removed the deficit all by himself, especially with the kind of form he's in.
So do you think Norm is an ambassador of cricket?
Norman?
Yeah. Do you think he blends the West and the East of cricket?
Yeah, he's a master of a lot of things. I'm not sure you can mention all of those, but okay. Yeah, we can. I think we can say, since we are on his show, we are obligated to say that. I'd say so. Yeah.
Well, I don't have to say anything, but I think it's amazing that we're 1 hour and 37 minutes in, and people are still watching this channel.
Of course, I mean, there's something that that Norman's doing well. Definitely, the 19,000 subscribers are a testimony to it. To get people from all across the world to join in and speak on a topic that transcends boundaries, transcends communities, transcends different identities, is something which not a lot of people can do. So he deserves.
Yeah, it's a big.
It's another thing that I just like to pull his leg on whatever I can do.
But
now, Gil, do you realise where Jim is from?
Sorry?
I'm from Goa. I'm from Goa.
No, you're not from Goa.
On the coast.
He's from California. I
surf in India. And I live in Goa.
You do not. Jim lives in Orange County in the USA, the West Coast, California, not far from Laguna Beach. Mission Viejo, is it? What's the place?
Mission Viejo. It's in between San Diego and Los Angeles. But I think it is interesting that you're on this show and that all these other people are on the show and they're listening to Norm and he's facilitating this conversation, which it's not easy to do, because if you were a total spaz, people would not watch it, but people are watching it. So it's powerful.
Jim's in America, Gil's in deepest, darkest India. I shouldn't say that.
You, considering the amount of following that you have from India, I don't think you should be saying that.
I wasn't being rude at all. I was just saying, to explain where you are in India to people.
I'm speaking from Delhi. Mostly I am in Delhi whenever I'm coming on the show, or if not in Delhi, then some part of the country, because I have to travel a little bit for work. But mostly I'm joining in from Delhi.
Well, it's been a great show because, Gil, we've had obviously David Graveney with Chris Vernon. They was in England with Munchie joining. We also had Reg Vernon, but he was in Lanzarote in the Canary Islands on holiday, which was rather amusing. But it was good. So Jim's knowledge of cricket is immense. Gil, you'd be quite shocked at how much he knows. He's been very good.
Why are we calling him Gil? His name is Gurkarat.
So my full name is Gurkirat Singh Gill, and a lot of people have trouble pronouncing my first name. So I give them an option by calling me from their from my first name.
Don't tell them your real name and say you pronounce my name because I'm pronouncing your name. So tell me the full pronunciation of your name.
So it's Gurkirat Singh Gill. Gurkirat's my first name. Singh is my middle name.
Gurkirat Singh Gill.
Yes, Gurkirat Singh Gill. That's
Say
right.
it again.
Gurkirat Singh Gill.
Gurkirat Singh Gill. Is that right?
Gurkirat. Yeah, you'll get there. After 5.
Gurkirat.
Yeah, Norman's got it.
Yeah. Don't let anybody tell you another version. Just say it 10 times and then they'll get it.
Because Jim's last name is Farbanik.
Yeah.
But some people call him Farbiyanki.
And people get it wrong all the time. And I'm like, you give them grace, but then you're like, you know what? I knew how to say your name.
Ooh.
Well, that's another way to look at it, for sure.
It's actually James Farbarenik. Is that right?
Farbanik.
Farbanik, of course. Sorry.
That's all right. You'll get it. Norm will get it one day.
Oh, I've only known him for 26 years, Gil.
Yeah, he'll get it one
day.
Been a while. So what's your favorite cricket match of all time? Gurkirat Singh Gill.
Favorite cricket match of all time has to be the Gabba Test match.
Test in one day.
Test match is definitely the Gabba Test match that happened earlier this year where India beat Australia. That's definitely a favorite Test match.
Your best of all time?
Yeah.
Ever?
Well, certainly it's going to go down that. Jim, it will. Trust me, it was an amazing match. They had 9 players out of that team, and they still beat Australia on the ground that Australia hadn't lost in 32 years. It's quite a big deal.
And then what's your one-day best match?
It's the 434 game in South Africa, 2006 Johannesburg, where South Africa chased down 434, which no one had imagined. Yeah.
So South Africa hasn't done that since, right?
I don't think any team has chased 400. It's a difficult
Australia
thing.
Scored 433, didn't they? 431 or something, and they did a great job. They looked unbeatable, but South Africa came and knocked it off. It was
South Africa was good in the mid 90s and then early mid 2000s, but they haven't done much since, right?
Jim, here's the name. Here's a lovely friend of mine from Kenya. Pronounce her name.
I can't see that.
Mwende
Mukuru.
She's a lovely person. She's from all the way from Kenya. So that's another person who's following us dramatically. And I wish you were here, Mwende, because you're very special to this group.
Nice.
So back to this match, guys. Gil, what was your take on yesterday's performance? Tell us what your thoughts were. Were you frustrated? Were you disappointed? Were you happy?
Disappointed for sure because the least that India should have got on that pitch should have been 250. They're easily, I think, 70, 80 runs short. But like I said, taking Root's wicket is something that will, help them breathe a little easy. But I'd still say that England's ahead because they have Bairstow to follow, they have Moeen Ali to follow, they have Vokes to follow, and Overton also bats. Except for Anderson, everyone bats. So you'd still say that England's ahead. They would be much more easier than what they were when they were 190. I'd say they're 65. It's probably 65-35 in England's favor, yes, because they have to bat fourth. So you have to account for that as well. But again, for England to bat fourth, India will also have to bat very well whenever they bat. Once England innings gets over. So it's a combination of a few factors, and that is how it is.
Yeah, it's to me, I'm not disappointed with India's performance, and I'll tell you why. Because I think it was very impressive the way that Thakur recovered the innings, and they took the root wicket towards the end of the day. Those are psychological blows that, even though England are, and Chris Vernon, by the way, Gil, was carrying on saying that England will have a 150 lead by the end of the day, which means they're going to score 288 in the second day's play, which is ridiculous. I think the reality is that England will be somewhat worried at this moment, because if they lose, a few wickets very quickly, they're going to be in a lot of trouble. Because even though they've got some pretty reasonable rounders coming in, it's an instability there. Chris Woakes hasn't batted for a long time. Pope's been not playing well. Ali's not playing well. Bairstow's the only one that's had any runs on the board. They could collapse like a pack of cards if the bowling bowls well.
Who's rooting for India besides India?
Yeah, but again, at the same time, India's bowling also isn't the greatest in this Test match. Between Siraj, Shardul, and Umesh, there's a lot of inconsistency and a lot of inexperience. So you would have to, it could end up being 200 all out for England, or it could be 350 all out. It could be anything in between. So that's the risk that India have chosen to take. So yeah, I mean, I'd still say that England are ahead in the game. I'd still see them taking at least a 50-run lead, if not more. If India are able to restrict England to somewhat around 250, I'd say it's a great effort from the Indian bowlers, because it's an absolutely flat wicket. And, like I said, there's a lot of inconsistency in this Indian bowling lineup, which wouldn't have been the case had they probably played one of Ashwin or Shami. One of Ashwin or Shami. So that's there.
So where are India's biggest fans outside of India? Like, when India's playing, who are the most fans in what country?
Sorry, can you repeat? I missed your question.
So what fans outside of India are India's biggest fans when they're playing cricket?
You'd have to say that the biggest Indian fans outside of India are probably in England only, followed by Australia, and then maybe in South Africa. But yeah, I suppose there's a lot of support for the Indian cricket team in the UK. A lot of Indians live there.
What about Canada and the United States?
Actually, Gil, it's the United States.
Yeah, but they don't play that much in the US. I was talking in terms of the crowd that comes to watch the game. In pure numbers, of course, I think US would have more Indians and more expats. So yeah, that might be true. What are you saying?
It's interesting. And Jim, who's based in California, he's been given a job, Gil, is to go out and he's going to go on the streets of America from west to east to north to south and find every single person with a cricket bat and pull them over on the side of the road and say, hey, what's going on?
Yeah, Jim might have heard of someone by the name of Peter Della Penna, I suppose. No? So
who is he?
So Peter Della Penna is an American cricket journalist who works for Cricinfo. I actually interviewed him on my YouTube channel, and he had a lot to say about the development of cricket in US. It's there on my YouTube channel, and he spoke of how there are more people playing cricket in US now, but he's saying that there aren't enough kids playing cricket in US for US to develop into a strong cricketing nation. He says that a lot of expats are playing, a lot of players who come from other countries who are not able to make it big in their countries are coming to US to play cricket, but it's not happening at the grassroots level. This is something that he had to say.
Well, I think it's interesting because similarly to like Americans like my age, 40 plus, and baseball, same thing with cricket. So like is it your father's game or is it the younger generation game? So a lot of the younger generations are playing video games versus traditional cricket or baseball or basketball or football. So
yeah, that's what he had to say. That
so are you saying, Gil, that the people of father age are not pushing their kids to play cricket?
Yeah, that's what that is what Peter Della Penna of Cricinfo had to say, because he lives in the US. He follows associate cricket. He also interviews a lot of US cricketers. He even said that the pressure on associate cricketers is a lot more than what is the pressure on the cricketers of full member nations. He said that if Virat Kohli or Kane Williamson scores a duck, uh, they don't get their contracts drawn up. They know that they'll still be playing cricket. But he said that if a player from an associate nation, doesn't perform well and the team loses the match, they could lose their entire funding. Their contract could go up in smoke. So he said that sometimes we are so oblivious to the issues of associate cricket that we don't even realize that the pressure that they are under, continuously, because they have to do another job as well to sustain themselves. Some of them are working as an Uber rider. Some of them is working as a Uber driver. Someone is working as a delivery boy. So I'd like anyone who wants to know what is happening in US cricket circles or associate nation circles to go and watch that interview of Peter Della Penna. He's actually spoke of the issues at length. And anyone who wants an education or an insight into what happens in associate cricket should be watching that interview.
Well, Gil, can you send me that link and I'll put it on my community page so our viewers can be aware of it.
I'll send it to you. I'll send it to you on WhatsApp. Don't worry.
And of course, your YouTube channel is called
Gilly Cricket. So Gully cricket. Yeah, because gully cricket is a term in India. Gully cricket is a term in India because it's played in lanes of localities. Lanes are called gullies in the local language in India. From gully cricket, I got the name Gilly Cricket because, like I said, Gil is a part of my surname. So,
yeah. There you go.
Because Gurkharati cricket wouldn't quite work, would it?
Yeah. wouldn't sound as nice as Gilly Cricket does. Anyway, I think it's now time for me to go because the match is about to begin in 5 minutes.
Okay.
Yeah, it was great to talk to Jim, and I hope you enjoyed it as well. And probably we'll see you guys after the game if I'm available.
Certainly.
So bye for now.
All right, take care.
Thanks, Gil.
Right.
Ciao.
Thank you.
Ciao. Jim. I'm highly offended.
I'm barely staying awake.
Jim, Gil, what time is it where you are?
It's late. It's 2 o'clock something.
Well, I'm always on at that time, so you can suffer for once. The reality is, Jim, that I'm offended because Gil said it was wonderful to be on with Jim. Didn't even mention that he was talking to me as well. I'm highly offended.
You should be, but then we gave you a shout out at the beginning, and I said, "Isn't it amazing that we're 1 hour and 37 minutes in, that you're still on this channel?" And he said, "Yes." So if that's not an endorsement, I don't know what is.
Well, Anuj Ingle, who's a regular on my show, says Jim's face is 10 out of 10, but your voice is 4 out of 10. I would have reversed that around. I would have said voice is 10 out of 10, but face is
harsh. That's very harsh. I mean, I'm very prideful of my voice.
And Jim, you've also been said that you're too direct with your questions, and he might sound a bit rude. No elegance. Well, Anuj Ingle is very hard hitting to that.
Well, how do you not want me to be? Do you not want me to ask direct questions, or do you want me to be real?
I think Anuj Ingle can be taken. He is a cheeky bugger, and he makes a lot of comments. He often talks about my weight and my biscuit eating, and also my age. But
who does?
Anuj Ingle. He often makes comments about my age, my weight, my beard, my eating habits. So I'm used to it. He's all right. All right. So Jim, you've been fantastic. You have been hard-hitting, insightful. You were able to get David Gravy's attention totally. You wouldn't even let me talk.
Dave, we didn't even know you were on the channel. It was just David and Jim's show. I mean, I thought we might start our own YouTube channel and just go from there.
Well, that's good. Or there have been plenty of offshoots of my channel. Gilly Cricket, for example, is certainly one that's come up. Aparna Saini has their own cricket conversation channel.
David just chatted me and he said, "Jim, you want to get a channel going? And then we'll invite Norm as a guest." And I said, "Let's do it."
Right.
I said I can't betray Norm.
That's exactly right.
I've known him too long.
Well, the game is actually. This is now getting to a fever pitch, Jim. This is where numbers drop a little bit because we've got just about 5 minutes before the actual match.
I heard India is playing England.
They certainly
Is
are.
that right?
Certainly are. India are playing England at a ground called the Oval, which is in South London. It's the second day of the Test match. India were all out for 191, which is not a very good score. England are 3 men out for 53, so they're still 138 runs behind India. But by way of the status of the match, you would imagine England would probably go past India's total by a few into the second day. We're still 3 days.
So what is your prediction for the final outcome?
Look, England are in the front at the moment. It's going to really depend on how far ahead they get today. But I've still got a feeling India are going to do well here. I don't think India are out of the woods just yet. So I think I'm still going to favour India to win this, even though it doesn't look like it necessarily at the moment.
By how much?
It'll be close. It'll be a matter of just a few wickets.
50 balls? 50 runs?
Even less.
Is that a direct question or a non-direct question?
Kind of non-direct-ish.
That's very direct.
Krishna,
I'm going to take England by 25 runs.
So, Krishna Mohan asked direct. I'm not sure what Krishna Mohan. I've caught Arnold Jingler saying Jim faced 10 and he's still saying that, and he's having a bit of a giggle now. Arnold Jingler, let's see your picture. Let's send me your picture on Instagram. Let me see whether your face is 10 out of 10. That's the question.
So there's three more days of the test?
A maximum of 3 more days at this point. Well, more than 3 days. It's actually 4 days if you include today. This is the second day. There's a third, fourth, and fifth day in the test match. So effectively, you have potentially, your Sunday Hapathantri, who is Sri Lankan based, but she actually lives in London, and she's saying hi to you, Jim. She is a singer. She has her own YouTube channel, and she's a follower of our program.
Nice.
So she's a young girl. So
that's
we
support all cricket followers of Eyes on Cricket.
Varun Marani was on it. He's actually Indian, but he's based in the Philippines, and he's a regular on the show as well.
Oh, cool.
So we're now looking at the Indian players are now on the field.
Norm, do you know how many YouTube channels go almost 2 hours live?
Yeah.
Not many.
No, not many. It's true. There's not many.
This is the only YouTube channel that's going to push 2 hours of content on a live stream.
But riveting, because Jim, you've been you've handled it with a great aplomb, I'll say. And I'm going to photograph you and put it on social media.
Norm, this is the only channel that can go 2 hours of live content, and you still have people watching.
But did you feel like it was 2 hours?
I think it took me half an hour to jump in because you wouldn't let me in.
That's not true.
I
gave you a grand audience. I gave you a crescendo. I gave you a bit of a rev up. I talked about you and about what you stand for.
David went to dinner with his wife, then came back on the show with a different outfit, and then I joined.
Munchie's saying we're still going, guys. Munchie, I'm about to sign off very shortly, Munchie. So
Munchie probably took a shower, then he came back.
Munchie's actually meant to be working. He's the CEO of a multinational company with billions of actually trillions of turnover, but he is still a tiny fast bowler from England.
Oh, nice.
No, he's not. I jokingly said, or I didn't. I said it. I slipped. I said to some very famous people, Jim Maxwell and David Graveney. I described Munchie to Jim, and it was still didn't come out as good as it should have. So your Sunday Hapathantri is actually an avid UK supporter, despite having Sri Lankan background. I thought she would go for India, but she doesn't. So there you go. So the game is about. So Mohammad Siraj is about to open the bowling this morning. Mohammad Siraj is a very young, vibrant young player. Weather forecast from Tim Wilson-Davies and not from Munchie. Munchie's normally our weather girl, but Tim Wilson-Davies is taking over there. Weather forecast is fine all week, which would mean the next test match will be also fine, which will be played in Manchester. Have you been to Manchester?
I have. I watched Manchester United play Chelsea in 2008.
Really?
For a soccer game.
Football.
Norm, we are 20 seconds away from being a 2-hour live stream.
And we have Darwin Milan batting.
I don't think anybody else has done a 2-hour live stream before.
No, not many. Certainly not from California and Australia on a game.
I think this is a record.
Between India and England.
I think this is a record.
We'll just hit 2 hours on the dot. All right, Jim. We're going to be.
All right.
Okay. High five.
High five. We did it.
Go to the middle of the screen. See if you can match my high five. Quick, get your high five going. Very well. Your hands
broke
too
the
close.
record.
Your hands too close. Get closer. There we go. Touch. Magically touch. All right, there we go.
I did it.
Anyway, we've high fived from Sydney, Australia, across the Pacific Ocean, all the way to Laguna Wuna, Mission Vijay Beach.
So just say Southern California.
Southern California.
You did.
I like saying Mission Vijay. I think that's got a nice ring to it.
Well, it's Mission Viejo. You just don't say it correctly.
Viejo.
Mission Viejo.
Mission Viejo.
Halfway between San Diego and Los Angeles.
Not all that far from Hotel Coronado, of course.
Norm has been there. He streamed it.
Pretty close to Laguna Beach, near the Ribbon State. What's it called? The Surf and Turf Ribbon. What was the restaurant we went to?
Surf and Sand.
Surf and Sand. That's right. Which was very romantic, Jim.
And we're not getting paid. We're not getting paid for plugging their hotel.
No, I can't. All right. But I am hoping to get supported by Arnott's shortbread cream biscuits.
Where are the Tim Tams? Who owns Tim Tams now?
Not Australia, I'm afraid. Okay. All right. We'll let you go, Jim. Thank you. Big kiss from Australia to America. Thanks, everyone. We had amazing guests, David Graveney, Gurkharat Singh Gill. We had Chris Vernon, Reg Vernon, Munchie.
We had everything.
Jim.
Everything.
Everybody
who's anybody was on the show tonight.
Wendy was there from Kenya. We had Yasandi from England, who's Sri Lankan. Tim Wilton Davies, Amaya Moray.
Chris, David.
Vibhav Taragi. We had
Munchie, everyone.
GPS, Munchie, of course, I mentioned. We've had Yasandi.
Gil, we had Gilly.
Krishna. Everyone. All right, guys. We'll talk soon. We'll watch this match with great interest with Milan facing the bowling of Siraj. And hopefully we'll come post-match at a time which is actually very poor for me. It'll be 3 a.m. in the morning in Australia. What time is it now again?
2 something.
Okay. I think it's 3, isn't it?
Close. It's pretty close.
3. So 3 in the morning in America, it's 8 p.m. in Australia. We'll be seeing each other at 3 a.m. in my time. We'll see each other then. So thank you, Jim, for being a great guest. We'll talk very soon.
Eyes on cricket.
All right. Eyes on cricket with Norman Kosnick and Jim Farback. All right, guys. Ciao, ciao.
Peace out.